CPT 310 Professional Computing Practices Assignment 2 Written and produced by Stuart Lees. How location services are invading people's privacy. In 1949, a man named George Orwell released his world-famous book on the concept of Big Brother, where he predicted that by 1984 we would live in a monitored society. While his prediction was a little before its time, it cannot be denied that with all the CCTV cameras watching our busy streets, we do live in a surveillance society. So it would only be right to assume that any new technology that could be used to monitor people would be used as such. Enter the smartphone with its integrated GPS. Any program on a mobile phone that uses a location service to show where you are is using the mobile phone's GPS system to achieve this. So, you may ask, what is the big deal? Well, to calculate your location, the GPS system bounces a signal off 3 satellites in order to triangulate your location. The problem lies in that the calculation is not done on your phone, but on a third-party server. And what do servers love to do? That's right, store information. So every time your phone uses its GPS, that location gets saved onto a server. But why is this bad, you ask? Remember, information that is stored can be viewed or even sold. Advertising companies love information like this, information that can allow them to supply the most targeted ads they can. Ever wonder why Facebook always seems to display ads that somehow relate to what you have been posting about recently? This is because Facebook gathers information about what you like, what you comment about, and yes, where you use your mobile device to check in at. Then they sell this information to third parties so that they can display targeted ads on your wall. You didn't think Mark Zuckerberg became the world's youngest billionaire by giving you a free Facebook, did you? But all that aside, location services are an invasion of privacy. Why? Because they invade on one of Gaverson's 3 key elements of privacy. In 1980, Ruth Gaverson wrote a paper titled Privacy and the Limits of the Law. In this paper she wrote that privacy comes in 3 elements. These elements are information known about an individual, attention paid to an individual, and physical access to an individual. Location services invade Gaverson's first element, the element of secrecy. While it is true that one could argue that in the case of Facebook you want your friends to know where you are, otherwise you would not check in. But what you did not want was third parties knowing where you are. The problem is that legally you let them. Shocking, isn't it? But that is all in the terms of use that you just accept without even reading. Don't worry, no one does. And that is the reason that third parties get away with so much. But it is not even the third party's fault. They do not know or care how the information is collected, just that it does and that it is for sale. It is the companies in charge of the information that are the ones to blame. It is also not just internet-based companies like Facebook that use location services to invade people's privacy. Location-based services have been used for a number of years, particularly in the case of keeping tabs on elderly people with mind-affecting illnesses such as dementia, parolees, and even children. The privacy dilemma arises when we consider how much information about a person is too much. In the case of an elderly person who is affected by dementia, is it ethical to constantly know where that person is, even though dementia does not affect a person 100% of the time? Just because a person has an illness, does that give others the right to invade that person's autonomy? This then brings up the argument of consent. Sure, a person could consent to having their location constantly monitored. What about people who are deemed too impaired to make a rational decision? Another concern is in preemptive control. In many countries, it is commonplace to use location services to keep track of parolees. The concept is to monitor newly released prisoners to ensure they do not fall back into bad habits. Sounds reasonable, doesn't it? These prisoners have done their time and been deemed safe enough to return to public life, so why should their rights to privacy continue to be invaded? In Australia, there is an anti-terrorism law which allows police to tag individuals suspected of terrorist ties with location-based services for up to 12 months. Again, sounds reasonable, right? They should track terrorists. But the key concern here is that these people are only suspected of being involved in terrorism. So is it right to invade the freedom and privacy of an individual for a whole year just because they are suspected of being a terrorist? Also the question of how much evidence and of what type is needed in order to enact such a warrant. In the case of parents monitoring the location of their child, it comes down to an issue of trust. Trust is an important aspect of human existence. It is shaped very early in our lives and continues to be shaped until we die. So if a parent displays a lack of trust in their own child, how will that affect the child as he or she grows up? So just remember, privacy is an important part of our lives, so the next time you consider using a location-based service, consider who will have access to that information and how they will use it.